everyone. Welcome back to She Means Business, the podcast where we dive into bold conversations with women redefining industries, challenging norms, and leading with heart and innovation. Today, we're digging into the world of accounting, but not the version you think you know. Our guest today is Chloe Fallon, director of Lodestar Accounting, which is a modern, women-led firm that's quietly transforming how accountancy is done, with trust, tech, and team culture at its core. We're exploring how Chloe built a thriving all-women team, how tech enables rather than replaces, and what challenges women are facing with the gender pay gap. Does it exist in the same way that it has previously? This episode is for anyone who's building something different, by choice or by chance. So let's get into it. Hi, Chloe. Can you share a little bit about yourself to kick things off?
Hi there, yeah, of course. So, as you mentioned, I am founder of Lodestar Accounting, an all-female accountancy practice that is fully remote. So, embrace tech in every way because we're spread across, well, the world actually now, mainly the UK though. And all our clients are dealt with remotely as well. So, yeah, tech for us is a massive part of the business, as is kind of customer connection, client connection, and really helping businesses to achieve their goals.
Right, yeah, awesome. Like you said, you've described your team as all women, but it's not really deliberate, it's not by deliberate design. Can we unpack that a little bit? So how did Lodestar come to be, and how did your team evolve into what it is today?
So started out almost 10 years ago now, actually, just me. At my dining table, as we hear so many kind of small accountancy practice stories now, I had a young family, so decided that actually I needed more flexibility around how I was working. And actually, with all the cloud-based tools we have now in fintech, remote working is great. So I could use the working from home kind of aspect pre-COVID, obviously, to set up an accountancy practice that worked for me and my family. We offer fully flexible work hours, so I basically set Lodestar up as I wanted to work.
Wow, yeah.
And I think that just appeals to females, mothers, and people that just want to have that balance between work and life, really.
And do you find it hard to sort of manage having so many different people at different times and different locations on a like day-to-day basis, or how does that kind of work to make sure your employees sort of feel supported day to day?
Naturally, people fall into a regular pattern of their own, so everyone will have their preferred working time, so you start to get a feel for who's working when, and actually there's a lot of overlap. So middle of the day tends to be the busiest between kind of school hours if people have got children at school, but then you do see some people working early mornings or late evening, depending on what kind of suits their working style and their kind of body clock, I suppose. I know some people prefer mornings, some prefer evenings, just to top their hours up to make sure that they've done their hours in a week. We do kind of see crossover between the whole team, which is nice. But yeah, people flex it to suit their own circumstances too.
That makes sense. It is it's a great, opportunity to be able to work from home. I think I worked from home for 3 years back when I was living in the States, and it really did just give me a better idea of what work-life balance should be. So I definitely understand that. I think that's an inspiring thing to work towards, being kind of all remote and inclusive in that way. I think that's awesome.
I guess there is a debate going on now, especially now that everybody's sort of come around from COVID and everything's sort of returning back to whatever normal looks like now. There is a debate going on whether you should be back in the office or whether you should stay at home. I guess, would you sort of be voting towards staying at home? Like, I guess, have you noticed, obviously you didn't always start with Lodestar, you had worked in a firm before. Did you find the productivity levels different when you were in the office as opposed to having flexible working at home?
I think there's an argument for both ways, and I think we've always been remote. So pre-COVID, we were remote. We were told by recruiters we would never recruit to be in a fully remote workplace. And then halfway through COVID, had a call from the same recruiter who said, actually, you were ahead of the curve, weren't you? So we've never had the kind of coming from an office to a remote workplace back to an office difficulty that I know other practices have felt. And I think because we've always been set up in that way, we've attracted people who are comfortable working remotely. And so we don't have concerns over productivity because everyone that comes to us knows how we're set up anyway. I think maybe that's slightly different if you've got a team that are office based that then go to remote, and they've got to adapt to that, and you've got to put tools in place to allow them to work remotely. But for us, it's not really been a challenge in terms of productivity and efficiency and that sort of thing. I think it's about having the right tech and the right culture built.
I think it's interesting because obviously bots for that generally are mainly in the office, and Daniel loves having everybody in the one place, which is grand. But obviously I'm not like that. I'm probably the one person in the whole office that is at home all the time, and I think I get so much more done at home than I ever do whenever I'm in the office. Yes, whenever I go to Guildford or Cardiff, it's probably packed full of one-to-one meetings to make sure we get signed off on all the things that we need to get signed off. But whenever I come straight back home, it's straight into work, it's straight into the admin and getting things done on my end. So I think from my side, I prefer working from home. I feel like I get a lot more done and a lot more productive. But whenever I'm back in the office, it's more of the social side of things, just getting to see everybody that they don't necessarily get to see me all the time. Unless it's in a meeting.
And I think that's one of the downsides to working from home, isn't it? That it can be quite isolating. So, I mean, I'm lucky enough to have a great social circle outside of work and a family to keep me company, and 3 pets as well to keep me company during the day. So for me, I don't feel particularly isolated working from home, and I might go to a co-working space every now and then, or I might like go to the gym in the middle of the day. So you get that contact, whereas I can imagine for some people who maybe live on their own or don't have those kind of activities to do, it can be quite isolating. An office might be a better place for them to work then. So I think there's pros and cons to each, isn't there? But I agree. I can definitely get stuck into something at home and not have those distractions of an office.
And like you said, culture is just so important when it comes to working as a team. Are there things that you do remotely that help promote, more of a conversation between each other and a closer team? What do you do to facilitate that?
I think, one of the things you lack working from home as a fully remote team are those kind of, I don't know, people term them the water cooler moments, don't they? Those just passing moments in an office, having those little brief conversations with people. You really have to work to build in space for those kind of cultural, social interactions. For example, on Friday, actually, we're having our virtual pub called the Pod and Petal, 4:30 till 5:30 on a Friday. Every couple of weeks, we just have that placeholder in the calendar, and anyone that wants to jump in and kind of have a chat and just have that social interaction can do. It's not compulsory, it's optional, but it's just there if people want to have that social side of things. We also have a really cool app called ULife. It's linked to insurances actually for the team, but it's to do with kind of walking, meditation, Sudoku.
Nice.
And there's like leaderboards on there, so there's a bit of competitiveness within the team. You can also challenge people to duels to see who gets the most steps in a day. So there's some quite fun stuff there that we do to try and just build in that, again, social interaction, which isn't as natural being a remote practice.
Honestly, I do love having that sort of online social competition as well, so it'd be something that maybe we're looking into implement maybe in our company too, because that would be fun sort of bonding experience between all of us.
I'd highly recommend it. And you also can earn Ucoin through the app, so the more steps you do and the more challenges you do, you earn Ucoin, which you can then swap for things like supermarket vouchers, clothing company vouchers. So you actually get a reward as an employee for participating and doing all these challenges. So obviously there's a cost to the company for it, but I just find as a remote practice you have to invest in things like that to build that culture and social interaction.
Absolutely, yeah. So like you said, obviously culture is important, and you have an all-women firm. Do you think that women bring a different sort of lens to client services or cultures in a firm?
I mean, I don't like going down the route of kind of women versus men. I like to think
everybody at the seated table.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, it wasn't by design that we became all women. It's just it's just happened. I think we're attracting women more so, as we mentioned earlier. I think there's a caring element maybe that females can bring to the table sometimes more than men in terms of looking after and that caregiving role. And I find that female clients especially are less apprehensive to ask questions to us as a team because, maybe we're more kind of open and they don't think they're asking a silly question as such. So maybe that's the side of things that females, being in a female-led team and an all-female team, would bring. We've had a couple of clients mention that they've just been scared in the past to ask male accountants questions because they're made to feel a little bit silly.
Yeah, it can be intimidating. I can see that. Yeah.
We never want our clients to feel like they can't ask us a question. That's what we're here for. We're here to help, and we're here to help you kind of learn your numbers and understand them and use them to make decisions.
Has there been any sort of benefits or challenges that you sort of didn't expect to see when you set up your firm?
I suppose for me personally, it is just building the workplace for how I want to work. Travel's massively important to me. I love travel, and being fully remote and cloud-based means we can travel as and when we want to and still work around that and flex the hours around that as well. So for example, a few weeks ago I was out of the country. I was in Spain, and I had my son with me, and so I worked kind of 6 till 12, and then we went off to the beach in the afternoon and did fun family stuff in the afternoon. So I can integrate work with that travel, which was really important for me.
Yeah, I think my sister in particular, because she's a young mum, she has 3 children under 5.
Wow.
Yeah, they're a lot, but she's a stay-at-home mum now because she didn't want to give up the early years. But I think sometimes in Northern Ireland anyway, they're a bit more, let's stay in the office, three or so days a week at least. And because where we live, we're probably about an hour and a half away from any main city. The likes of Belfast and stuff, it just wasn't accommodating for her. So she made that choice to stay at home. But if she had that flexibility for those sort of things, I know it would empower her to stay in the workforce. She will eventually, when they all end up back in school, she will come back. But I think it's hard for an employer to give that flexibility sometimes. But it's hard on, a parent to be able to close the door and leave them behind, especially when you think of the cost of childcare.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's such a shame that we lose such a good portion of the workforce for a period of years because of those difficulties if you've just explained. I think there's kind of a job board that we've used called 5 Hour Club. I'm not sure if people have heard of it, but it's really aimed at people that want to work kind of reduced hours. They don't want to leave work altogether, but they can't do a full-time job because of caregiving responsibilities or just not wanting to work full-time. And so we've hired a couple of people through there actually who want to be on part-time hours so that they can balance staying in their career, the thing that they've invested so much time, money and energy to develop, and balance that with the caregiving responsibilities they've got at home.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's a mad choice now that people still, in 21st century, that we're still having to make those kind of choices. Like obviously Ashley didn't want to give up the magic that happens in the first couple of years. Like I take Leroy and stuff to the zoo and do different little like farm activities, and like the amazement in their eyes, the whole world is just so wonderful to them. And she just didn't want to lose those moments that you'll just, you don't get back whenever they're a bit older. And I think the workforce is obviously getting better. They're making the roles between men and women within workforces a lot more balanced, especially with the paternity leave and maternity leave. And obviously families look different now than when they did years ago. But I do think it is a challenge having both. There's always going to be a give and take, and it's the flexibility behind that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think although it's getting better, the balance between males and females, I think primarily
could do some work.
Still down to the female that gives up their career to be the primary caregiver. And I know that's getting better, but I think still we're seeing it's heavily the females that take on that role, which is a shame, because of the diversity then is swayed towards males in business and in work, isn't it? So there's a lot of still to be done.
Definitely a lot of work to be done in that aspect for sure. In terms of making your employees feel supported outside of, since you work remotely, how do you manage to do that? How do you manage to make them feel supported in a way that like kind of continuously goes on in that support throughout the workday and in the workplace?
So again, it comes down to tech. So we use Google Workspace, we use kind of instant messaging. So instead of having someone sat next to you who you can turn to and say, oh, can you just help me with this? People will message each other or book in a time slot just to kind of have a catch up with each other to go over a particular subject if they need help. Also kind of the collaborative tools within Google are great. So like Google Sheets, Google Docs, you can both be in the same document at the same time. So that really helps as well. It doesn't mean we have to be sat in the same room to be helping each other and training people on tasks and things. So Yeah, it really does just come down to the tech, I think, in terms of support. Like I say, as the team's growing, we're finding that more and more people are online at the same time. There's more crossover, so there's always someone there that you can kind of ask, or you don't have to wait too long really to get a response to those questions.
Right. So you feel like the communication aspect is really there. Do you think that an aspect of how communicative you are is because you are all remote, because you don't get to really have these face-to-face conversations in the office?
Yeah, maybe. I suppose it's difficult to measure, isn't it? Because if you're in an office, you discuss with people things all the time anyway. So you've probably got that communication. I mean, we do have on a Tuesday afternoon something called The Office, which is just a Google Meet that is open for 3 hours and everyone can just drop in and out as and when they want. So if you want to sit on there and do your work and just have a chat like you would do in an office situation, we can do that as well. So yeah, it's just building in those, trying to think differently, I suppose, about how you can build in those different times to have those touch points and really support each other.
You're obviously a very tech forward company. You have a lot of tech stacks going through your company. Do you think going forward, and obviously we are a tech company, so AI is big into what we do day in and day out, but do you think that the tech that people are using now is going to sort of shape how we work in the future?
Oh, definitely. I think we've seen that already over the last kind of decade in finance. Well, probably longer than a decade now, thinking back about it. But going to cloud-based, it's the norm now. Everyone is on cloud-based solutions for bookkeeping. That was a big shift from when I first joined the industry. It was very much desktop or paper books that everyone wrote down their purchase sales in. So yeah, I remember being a junior and being delivered a suitcase, literally a suitcase full of receipts and things.
Oh no.
My job was to go and sort through them. And yeah, and there ended up being a pair of boxes in that suitcase as well, which had been left in there, which wasn't particularly pleasant. So yeah, my time in the industry has shifted massively from paper-based to cloud-based and kind of technology-based. And I think we're in that next phase now where it's going from just cloud-based to AI and much more automation and using AI to really, I don't know, ease the burden of that pressure of kind of day-to-day processing. And we're seeing that as a real opportunity to then spend a lot more time and energy on making the numbers make sense for the clients. So letting AI do the kind of day-to-day processing side of things, which experienced bookkeepers might find a bit tedious, to then, use their time more effectively, more efficiently, build that connection with clients, get under the skin of what do they want to do with their business and how can we help them to achieve that, rather than just sitting there kind of reconciling things.
Yeah, I think it's something like 64% of accountants have cited time saving through AI using like bookkeeping and payroll and document drafting and that sort of things. But obviously different people and different leaders use tech adoption using different lenses. They come at it from different angles. So do you think the gender lens is going to be using AI to solve different kind of problems?
I think AI can be used in so many ways. We're just scratching the surface, aren't we, of how it's used. And I think we, as a kind of tech forward firm, like you've mentioned, we're trying to find ways to really utilize it and add value with it. I think it's really difficult to think of everything. You'll find one thing that it works really well at, and then something else will pop up. And I think it's about collaboration amongst different practices and people in the tech space as well to kind of really understand what use cases there are. We've got a fantastic IT support provider, Kimberly IT, and they're always coming up with ideas of how we could be using AI within our business. They've just recently recommended something called Whisper, which is like a voice to text app which you can have, and that has been a massive time saver for the team in terms of writing emails, because we obviously talk faster than we can type. That's been a game changer for us as a team, because it works with all of the different apps that we use. So emails, kind of instant messages.
Do you think though that the adoption rate of AI is going to be quicker within the accountancy space? Because I know previously, you generally get people who are all for tech. They're like, this is great, we're going to be unbelievable. But then you get the people that kind of sit back and they're like, I don't know if this is right for me. I don't know if I actually trust this to be within my systems. And, they sort of take longer to come into the sort of curve where everybody else stands currently?
Yeah, I think you'll get that range. I think any industry will have that range of people that are more apprehensive around tech and people that are more forward thinking. We've always wanted to be on the forward thinking side and really embrace that tech. I do call myself a bit of a fintech geek. I like to learn what's going on and keep up to date with all the technology changes. But I think we're seeing a lot of people selling practices because of the move to technology. Maybe if they're nearing retirement age anyway, they don't want to have to get their head around all the new tech that's coming out, especially with making tax digital by HMRC. So we're seeing a lot more movement in terms of people retiring maybe a few years earlier than they'd originally anticipated. But yeah, we just see it as an opportunity, to be honest.
You're obviously very open to new tech and all the new up and coming I guess advances that are coming out recently and in the future. Do you see any risks that come with that?
I think there's definitely risks. I think the first one is around security, making sure that the tech that you're using is secure. Like I say, we've got a great IT support provider who will assist us with making sure that what we're using is compliant with kind of GDPR in the UK and making sure that things aren't kind of learning from sensitive client data. So
right.
that is the key thing, I think, in our industry, especially. Everything we're working with is sensitive data. So it's got to be made sure that whatever your tech you're using is compliant to keep that sensitive data secure. And then I suppose the big risk that everyone's talking about is that AI is going to take everyone's jobs. And I just don't think that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's probably the other risk that is the most widely spoken about in our industry is, and probably every industry, is how AI is going to take over the world and we're all going to have nothing to do with our time.
Oh, well, I live for the day, but I don't think that's ever going to come.
I think there's probably always going to be at least a human in the loop there.
Well, wasn't internet going to take everyone's jobs and computers were going to take everyone's jobs? And yeah, look where we are now.
Right, yeah. Just a matter of finding out how to, adapt to it, to what's coming out.
The jobs will change, won't they? And yeah, it will make a difference to the roles that we're doing, I think. Like I said earlier, there's less of the kind of monotonous tasks maybe. But actually that frees us up to do the much more interesting, exciting and added value work that we want to be clients. So yeah, I think, like you say, it's adapting to the way that it's working now.
It will be different because it'll allow you to engage with your customers in such a different way. You'll not be stuck at 6 p.m. doing your bank reconciliations before you can fill in any management reports. You'll actually be able to just set off your automation to do whatever it needs to do and go off to your client meetings and have your reports sitting with you before you get there.
Yeah, and the fact that we can, summarize those meeting transcriptions that we've had so that we kind of have an idea and be more prepared about what we're going into for the next meetings, I think is just so helpful to free up your time to work on more meaningful tasks that kind of need your attention a little bit more. So I definitely think that we're moving into a place in the future where things are just going to get easier in our jobs in terms of what we're doing, and the manual or monotonous kind of tasks that you were talking about are just going to be automated in that way.
Yeah. I think speed as well is going to change. So I think, again, already from cloud-based systems, we've seen people expecting their figures more quickly. And I think that's only going to accelerate with AI because I suppose if you've got AI dealing with those day-to-day transactions, we should be able to turn around management information much more quickly after month end and hopefully speed up decision making as well for that business. So I think, yeah, definitely speed is going to be a key thing. I was speaking to my great aunt the other day and she was talking about when she worked in travel and you'd send a letter off and you'd get 10 days before you got a response to that letter and you had to do anything with it. And she said, and then email came along and it was much more quick. And now obviously we've got instant messaging and all that sort of stuff. So it's literally people are expecting instant responses. So I think that's probably the other shift that we'll see with AI and tech.
I mean, you can see it even now, like in the way that we develop too. It's just going faster and faster and faster with the help of AI. And I mean, obviously you still have to do the work with it, but just the fact that you can develop something probably 30 to 40% quicker than you used to be able to is kind of insane to think about. And it's only going to be getting better, like even by the day, right?
Definitely.
Do you think, though, with all of the demand and how quick everybody's going to be expecting things now, because everything happens at the speed of conversation, that there's going to be a lot more expectations and we're going to find it a lot harder to switch off and just have a normal conversation and normal day-to-day chats?
Yeah, I think we have to be really mindful about that side of things, if I'm honest. I think I've got a 15-year-old daughter, and the way she consumes content is very different to how I would have consumed content at her age. And I do see that impacting, I don't know, how long she can sit and read a book for, or how long she can hold a conversation for, because she's so used to those snappy kind of 30-second, reels and social media. So I think we have to really take a conscious decision, or make a conscious decision, to train our brains to be able to do the longer term kind of attention span things, and step away from tech sometimes just to get into nature and kind of have that balance.
Do you implement any of those, no tech after a certain time in your household, just to get everyone kind of hanging out together?
We go through phases, and then I have to police it, so then it drops off, and then we start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my sister's children, like Leroy, he's 5, and he can play all day long, but as soon as he gets the iPad, he turns into this little zombie. And like you wouldn't even know he's there. He just sits in the corner, and I literally sounded like my mum to him the other day. I took the iPad off him when he was grinching on me, and I was like, "Do you see how blue sky out there?" I was like, "Go out and play. One of the days it'll be raining, and you can have your iPad back. But until that day happens, get outside." And then I like stopped myself after shouting at him, and I was like, "Oh my God, I sound like my mum. This is it. I've turned into her." But the switch between like the moment he gets that iPad and like when he's outside, it's like day and night. Like he nearly becomes addicted to the screen, and he'll not have a conversation with you when he's on the iPad. He'll just completely zone out into his own wee world, which is great for his imagination, but for his attention span and trying to engage with other people from a young age, it has caused problems. Like we have had to take that away from him to make sure that he is getting that engagement. And I think that's something that schools are going to have to be mindful as well, because they're bringing iPads into schools now. They're teaching using iPads. I didn't even know this until Ashley told me the other day, and I was like, whatever happened to a pen and pencil? Like, where's the paper element of this? I was like, how's he going to learn to write if we're always using iPads? And it's a generational shift, I guess, that we never had.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I mean, my 15-year-old, all her classes are on Google Classroom. She doesn't have a planner. So we used to have a planner at high school where you wrote all your homework down in the planner, and then your parent would have to sign it off to say you've done it. She doesn't have any of that. It's all done through apps and tech. And luckily I'm quite techie, obviously, and I even struggle with the number of different apps as a parent we have to follow. So yeah, I think there's a real shift generationally as well, isn't there, around how people work, how people consume content, and the speed at which people expect things. So managing that is going to be an issue, I think, over the next kind of decade or so in our industry, because there is going to be that expectation that everything is just immediately available. And it's about explaining and training clients to understand what we have to do behind the scenes to enable that, like to make sure the figures are correct that they're looking at. That as much as we do things like real-time bookkeeping to keep the figures up to date in Xero, there are still month-end checks that need to be done and month-end adjustments before you can use the reports that you're just running within the software. So yes, there's a risk there, I think, as well, around clients thinking that they can just run a report and it's always going to be right, without understanding what we do as accountants behind the scenes to make sure what they're using is correct.
Let's kind of move into more of a mentorship kind of leadership approach to what we're talking about now. I think we spoke earlier about that you very much enjoy mentoring people internally. So how do you approach that, especially with younger women in the firm?
Yeah, so I think we have a really collaborative kind of team ethic at work. So everyone wants to help everyone if they can. So it's not necessarily just that I would be mentoring people, but within the whole firm, everyone wants to be able to help. And it might be that I don't know, one of the more junior members of the team is more up to date with the processing side of particular software, and they can then help the more senior members of the team who maybe aren't as hands-on in that aspect. So it definitely works in all directions across the practice to make sure that we are just collaborative, and I think teamwork is something we've definitely nailed as a company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really proud of the team and how they all work together. Again, it's just about being open, making sure that people know they can ask questions. There aren't any silly questions. As with clients, the team feel the same way, and where people can do, they will help and mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much you can learn from every single person. Everyone's going through their own journey. Everyone's been through their own, places and educational backgrounds and all that stuff. So there's just so much to learn from everybody in terms of being open, listening to what they have to say. Maybe they're coming at it from a different perspective than you. So I think that's an awesome thing to be able to have a place where everyone feels like they can have their input both ways, listen to what people have to say and give their own input. I think that's really important, especially in a company that's remote.
Yeah, I think as well, it's not just with work chat. We talk about our personal lives. We're all females. We're all at different ages. We've all been through different things. And so if someone, I mean, they don't have to share personal information with the team, but 9 times out of 10, everyone's sharing things that are going on in their own home life as well, and maybe challenges that they're coming up against. And we kind of have those like discussions around, oh yeah, that happened to me. Like we were talking about with the tech and kids earlier, sometimes it's like, oh my God, they can't get them off the iPads. Has anyone got any tips around how we can do it? So yeah, I think it comes down to perspective, thinking about the whole picture, not just kind of saying, oh, we're only going to talk about work things.
I'm literally always doing that. Swear to God. I've been building a house for about 3 years, and I feel like the whole company's been on the journey with me. Every natural disaster has been discussed.
Yes.
It's nice when you can share that sort of stuff as well, isn't it? It means the culture is there, and it's not just, we come in, we do our jobs, we go home or work from home. We're not doing that anyway, but yeah, it's nice to be able to share personal journeys because it gives people that perspective on what you're going through as well.
Right, and there adds like an element of trust to that, right? Like if someone's trusting you with how open they are and all the stuff that's going on in their life, it kind of helps facilitate that, idea that you are close and you are working together, and you can just kind of make the most out of that in terms of working and things like that. So I think that's an awesome thing.
I mean, I'm very transparent about me and probably sometimes too open with what I share. But I just think, I am who I am. I'm not embarrassed about that. So yeah, if I share with the team and they can see me as a leader, then sharing openly, hopefully it builds some trust and makes people think that they can share with me as well.
Who's been sort of the most influential mentor to you, and how have they sort of changed your perspective on things over the last decade or so?
I think I've had loads of people that have impacted my kind of journey from a professional side of things. In the last few years, I've been working with an actual business mentor, Shelley. Shout out to Shelley. She's really helped me in the kind of journey I've been on as a leader within Lodestar. So going from sitting at my dining table, just me 10 years ago, to having a team of kind of 12 women spread across the world, dealing with massive clients, I've had to go on a journey from there to here. And she's really helped me kind of level up and be the leader that I need to be for the team. I think externally as well, like my husband has been a massive support. He's in a kind of leadership role as well. So we brainstorm, we think of things together. So that's been great. And I just think, it's taking on learning from everyone that you can, and seeing a lesson in every situation, I think is something that I've really tried to do, whether it's something that's gone wrong or something that's gone right. It's trying to think about what can I learn from this situation or this person.
Do you see any change or mentorship evolving, I guess, with AI and the remote working, and how readily available all the information is? I know it's generally it's experiences and the knowledge that people have provided, but having access to everything at your fingertips, do you think that's going to change how mentorship looks in the future?
I think mentorship will be more personal. I think it will really be about finding the right person to mentor you. Like you say, you can get information from the internet, you can get information from Google, from AI. It's about having someone that understands the journey that you're going on and your specific needs, and maybe tell you things you don't know that you need to ask. I could quite easily Google a question that I want to know, but sometimes you need a third party or an outside perspective to say, actually, the question you should be asking is this. I think connection is going to become so important as we move to a more kind of AI-based society. It's really going to hammer home kind of having someone who knows your journey, understands you, and is with you kind of for the long haul.
We kind of zoom out a bit. There's still a lot about this profession that kind of makes it hard for women to rise up. What would you change if you could just wave a wand and maybe redesign the accounting profession?
I think we're slowly getting to a position where it's more getting to a more equal kind of place to be. I've definitely seen a shift over the time that I've been in the industry to a less male heavy industry. I think opening it up to children that are at high school and changing the image of an accountant is really important. So when people think of an accountant, I think they probably still think of a man in a grey suit. There's an advert about breast cancer that really annoys me because it's about a woman explaining about she's come back to work and she's been asked how she is, and she just says, oh, I'm fine. And then she says, actually, I'm not fine. I've got all these things going on. But you can't say that to Keith from finance or something like that. And I just thought, oh, that's really going against what we're trying to do in the industry, to break away from the fact that we're these number-based people that don't care about someone's emotions. They're like we have empathy. So I think there's definitely a shift in kind of, I mean, I'm sat here in a hoodie explaining that an accountant doesn't have to wear a suit anymore. You can be kind of more relaxed.
I think there needs to be more exposure as well, that not all men are comfortable with their emotions and stuff, but it has got a lot better, and a lot of men are actually open into hearing what's going on in your own world. And it's not necessarily he versus she or anything in between. It's more that everybody has a seat and feels comfortable enough to be able to discuss what they feel is important. Because a lot of the time, I think, especially when we're in meetings and stuff, like Sophie comes at things differently from my perspective, because of past experiences and different ways of life, I guess. And like Connor and Phil would come at a completely different angle again, because obviously there are different departments of the company, and it's just allowing everybody to have that sort of voice, that they can all share their opinions and it's actually respected so that they're valued. But I think that the younger generation coming in are probably going to be a lot more willing and open than the generations before.
Oh, 100%. I think, like you say, the younger generation are much more in tune with their feelings and emotions than maybe we even were at that age. So I think there's definitely going to be a wave of new talent coming into the industry, which is really going to help that side of things. But I suppose it's just making people want to come into the industry, and females in particular as well. I mean, I was absolutely amazed that my daughter's high school don't offer business studies as a GCSE anymore.
No way.
And I was just like, well, how do they get to learn about business and entrepreneurialism and that sort of thing? So I think there's a load of work we can do to kind of educate the younger generation. And my daughter's fortunate because I'm always banging on about entrepreneurialism and business owners and things like that. So she sees it at home, but there'll be a whole load of children at that school that have got no exposure to business owners, or that could even be a path for them as a career.
About the gender pay gap, I mean, is it still alive and well in accounting, or has it been getting better over the years? Is it still there?
I would say yes. I don't have data, I don't have detail, but I would say there definitely is. I think it links into some of the stuff we've already talked about today in terms of people taking time out of their career to be the primary caregiver, and therefore you have a certain period of time where you don't move up the ladder. I think it's also about representation, so people seeing females in leadership roles and knowing that that's something they can strive for. I've always been told by my mum, you can do anything you put your mind to. So I went into my first interview for my trainee position and told them I was going to be a director and got the job, thankfully. Didn't end up being director there, but set up on my own. So yeah, got the director title at some point. But yeah, I've never been scared to try and aim to get to the top. Whereas I think, yeah, some people might not be as confident in that kind of ambition. And the more we can get females in leadership roles, the more we can kind of promote that is a goal to have, that is something that's acceptable to strive for, and that we should all be doing it. And then hopefully the gender pay gap will kind of lessen.
I do think there's an absolute societal shift around this, but a part of it is, I think, as well, is confidence, your own confidence in yourself to even say, look, this is not for me, this is not what I want. I'm quite lucky in that my mum and dad, I could rob a bank and they'd probably tell me that the bank didn't have tight enough security, it was their own fault. Because they just always back me no matter what. So it's always given me the confidence to walk into the room and be like, this isn't what I expected, and set out your own expectations, and being clear with what you kind of expect from an employer as well. I think there's a level of trust that needs to be there. There does need to be, I think, greater visibility within workforces as well as to where the salary audits lie and what that kind of looks like. But we're probably a few years away from any of those things. But I do think it's got better. And I think people, especially in younger generations, actually, they're a lot more confident and a lot more willing to ask for their own demands and put themselves out there than probably what the generations before have, that kind of generally kind of accepted things of how it was.
Something I've heard before as well is if a man thinks that they can do half of a job that's being advertised, they'll apply. If a woman can't do everything, she won't even bother applying for it. So I think there's a difference between how sometimes male and female, and that's a sweeping generalization, but that is like the same. But it just shows that actually a female might not go for a job that's higher paying because they don't think they can do the whole thing to start with, whereas a male might be more inclined to just give it a go and have a try if they think they can do a good chunk of it. So yeah, I think you're right. It's about confidence and having the confidence in your ability to go for something. And again, that's something we try and help our team with, is confidence. We have we've had well-being speakers come in and do confidence sessions with the team. So I think as an employer, it's your responsibility to try and develop the whole person. Not just the work side of them.
I mean, are there any other things that you do to kind of promote this growth and confidence? I know I sometimes struggle with that, so kind of trying to see where I can learn to get better with having more confidence in myself and my abilities. So what's your suggestions with that?
I definitely try and push the team out of their comfort zone, which they probably hate me for at certain times. But that's definitely how you grow. I mean, if you're not doing something that scares you a little bit, then you're not growing as a person. And I think that's probably my biggest piece of advice, is to do something that scares you. I used to say to Millie, my 15-year-old, do something that scares you every day. And yeah, she's just got back from a 4-week trip to Ecuador at age 15.
Wow.
Through her school. So yeah, she's definitely done things that have scared her recently, I think. So I think that's my biggest piece of advice, is just to really push yourself out of your comfort zone, and that's how you grow and develop. I used to be on stage, I used to be in an amateur dramatics group, and so I used to get the butterflies, I used to get the nervous feelings every time I went out onto that stage, but you learn how to deal with them, and I think that set me up to be able to push myself.
The last question I have for you is, what's one bit of advice that you have for women who are trying to navigate this space in their early career?
I suppose again links into what we've just been talking about, is back yourself and don't be scared to strive and be ambitious, and find a network of people that can back you up when maybe you are feeling a bit nervous about something. Find that network of people, find that mentor, really just go for dream big, just go for whatever you want to, and don't be scared of it. It's not very eloquent, not a very nice little catchphrase for you.
I love it though. I do love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, Chloe. It's such a powerful reminder that when you build a workplace rooted in values, not just strategy, that you can attract the right people, the right clients, and kind of spark real change. If today's episode made you think differently about leadership, tech, or even your own workplace, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with our latest episodes, and follow us on socials and leave a comment what really resonated with you in this episode. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and stay kind.